A group of Nazi soldiers attacked the woman. He emerged from his hiding place, bravely facing the danger to rescue her. She quickly grabbed some hot water from the table and poured it onto the soldier's pants. Burning in pain, he screamed and then fled in panic. The film begins with Heinrich racing through the dense forests of Germany in 1945, gunfire ringing out behind him as Nazi soldiers close in. He sprints along the muddy trails, heart pounding, before diving behind a fallen tree for cover. From his concealed position, he fires a shot that grazes Sergeant Doff, tearing through his earlobe. But his escape is short-lived. Seconds later, he loses his footing and plunges into a shallow ravine, where he's swiftly seized by the advancing German forces. Before the gathered officers, General Sternfeld harshly summoned Heinrich, condemning him for cowardice and treason charges deemed unforgivable amid the chaos of the war's final days. Yet to Heinrich, the Nazi regime embodied pure evil, and the war they waged was one he could never justify. For 6 years, the Nazis had carried out the mass slaughter of innocent civilians, a brutality Heinrich could never accept. His refusal to show remorse sealed his fate. He was sentenced to death by hanging, left to die in silence and shame. But at the final moment, Elsa, a local farmer, intervened. She cut him down and brought him to her home, offering a safe haven where he could begin to recover. When Heinrich awoke from his stupor, he found himself in a modest, welcoming home belonging to Elsa. She lived there with her brother Paul, a gentle young man with Down syndrome, whose eyes radiated warmth and innocence. Elsewhere, not far from their home, General Sternfeld and his unit arrived in a nearby village. There, he met with Mayor Robert Schlisch to collect information about the Jewish Lowenstein family. When questioned, Robert explained that the Lowenstein family had been driven out of the village 7 years ago. He guided General Sternfeld to the site of their former residence, now reduced to charred ruins, looted and destroyed by the villagers. Afterward, he offered Sternfeld and his team accommodations at his hotel. Robert brought wine and food to the exhausted Sternfeld, who welcomed the gesture after the grueling journey. As they conversed, Sonia, a perceptive local villager, approached and quickly sensed the Nazis' real objective, the search for hidden gold. Fearing the danger ahead, she pleaded with Robert to leave the village with her and begin a new life far away. But Robert refused, explaining that he had a child to care for. Frustrated, Sonia walked away, calling him a coward. Later, when Heinrich asked Elsa why she saved him, she revealed the Nazis had killed her father, and she stayed only to protect her vulnerable brother, Paul. She feared Paul would be taken to fight a war he couldn't understand or survive. Meanwhile, Sternfeld ordered soldiers and villagers to ransack and destroy the Lowenstein house in search of hidden gold. Derler arrived with urgent news that Allied forces were advancing deep into Germany, urging a swift retreat to safety. Sternfeld, however, remained composed and commanded Derler to focus on securing supplies instead. Deep down, Sternfeld believed there was still time to continue searching for the gold he was certain lay hidden among the ruins. Before departing, Heinrich sincerely thanked Elsa for saving and caring for him. Vulnerable, Elsa confessed. She needed him and pleaded for him to stay until he fully recovered. Heinrich looked at her with longing, wishing he could stay and help, but he needed to reunite with his daughter, the child he hadn't seen in 6 years. Paul nervously gestured toward the dirt road where Heinrich soon spotted a German army truck approaching. Derler commanded the soldiers to seize Paul's chickens, sparking Elsa's fury. She appeared, gun in hand and eyes blazing, boldly declaring that the chickens were essential for her family's survival and the soldiers had no right to take them. Paul watched helplessly, tears streaming down his face as the chickens were driven away. Derler followed Elsa and Paul into the house, cruelly mocking Paul's Down syndrome. He suddenly grabbed Elsa's necklace, sparking a fierce struggle as she fought to retrieve it. The Nazi soldiers then attacked Elsa, and when Paul tried to intervene, Derler chased him away. With Paul gone, Derler and his men began to plan how to exploit the defenseless woman. After witnessing the Nazis' brutal abuse of Elsa in the attic, Heinrich could no longer remain hidden. He emerged suddenly, catching the soldiers off guard and confronting them fearlessly. As Durler lunged at him, Elsa grabbed a pot of hot water and poured it down Durler's pants. Scalded and screaming in pain, Durler fled in panic, scrambling to escape by truck. Heinrich stepped outside, raising his gun to fire at the enemy, while Elsa bravely shielded him from the Nazi soldiers' assault. Suddenly, Emer appeared from the chicken coop, providing much-needed backup. Aware the soldiers would soon return, Heinrich decided to get Elsa and Paul to safety. They swiftly gathered their weapons and slipped quietly into the forest, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. Paul suddenly insisted on returning to care for his cow, but Elsa warned him that going back would endanger both him and the animal. Meanwhile, recovering at the hotel, Durler informed Sternfeld that Heinrich was still alive and vowed to return with a deadly resolve to eliminate them all. Elsa gently reassured Paul, encouraging him to rest despite his concern for the cow. They settled by the campfire in the forest, trying to find some peace. During their conversation, Heinrich shared his fear that his daughter might not recognize him, having seen her only once since her birth. The following morning, Elsa discovered Paul was missing. He had been captured by Nazi soldiers when he returned to the barn to milk the cow. Paul was brutally tortured in an attempt to force him to reveal Heinrich and Elsa's whereabouts. When he stayed silent, Durler retaliated by killing Paul's cow and burning his home to the ground. Elsa, in panic, ran down the hill, screaming from a distance to signal that the Nazis had captured her brother. Heinrich vowed to rescue Paul. Meanwhile, Sternfeld summoned the mayor, subjecting him to harsh interrogation about the rumored hidden gold bars. Despite the soldiers ransacking the house with no sign of the gold, Sternfeld remained convinced it was hidden there. Angered by the town's resistance, he resolved to publicly hang Paul as a brutal warning to intimidate the residents into submission. The Nazis moved quickly to punish the priests, determined to crush all resistance through ruthless force. Elsa and Heinrich reached the church just as Paul was being hauled to the top of the bell tower for execution. When two soldiers taunted him, calling him a fool, Paul fought back fiercely, shoving one soldier off the tower and shooting the other dead. Chaos erupted as people scrambled to escape, while Paul, desperate and overwhelmed, continued firing at the Nazi soldiers below the tower. Sternfeld shot him dead instantly, ending his resistance. Elsa mourned her brother's death, but clung to the hope that their secrets would one day be revealed. With no other option, she steeled herself to leave immediately. There was no time for grief. As Elsa descended the tower, she unexpectedly confronted Sternfeld and fired, but her gun was empty. Sternfeld didn't retaliate. Instead, his eyes revealed an unexpected softness. At that moment, Heinrich surged to the tower's summit, countering the Nazi attack by throwing a grenade that instantly obliterated the soldiers closing in on him. Amid the fierce battle atop the tower, Heinrich exhausted his rifle ammunition and became surrounded. Facing intense Nazi fire below, he hurled his last grenade before leaping from the tower roof to a nearby building. Inside, he engaged in a brutal struggle with the armed soldier Dorfler until both managed to break free and flee the scene. As Heinrich prepared to execute Dorfler, an Allied airstrike suddenly hit the village, allowing Dorfler to escape. He commanded his men to capture Heinrich, but by then, Heinrich had vanished. Later, Gerard discovered Heinrich severely wounded and hiding in her home, where she treated him with special medicine to aid his recovery. While Heinrich remained behind for treatment, the priest returned and explained why the Nazis targeted the Lowenstein house. They were searching for hidden gold. Mayor Robert had gone to the basement to meet two friends, where they discovered the gold's exact location. Fearing for his family's safety, Robert decided to inform Sternfeld. Suddenly, Sonia struck Robert down with a shovel, determined to keep the gold for herself and ordering his execution without hesitation. Meanwhile, Elsa stood beside Sternfeld, who confessed that she reminded him of his lost Jewish lover, someone he had been unable to marry. To spare that woman from the horrors of the concentration camp, he had chosen to end her life himself. Sternfeld carefully removed the ring from his wounded eye and slipped it onto Elsa's finger, promising to protect her forever. The priest then revealed to Heinrich the story of the Lowenstein family, a respected Jewish household in the region. However, driven by the brutal legacy of Hitler's genocide, Robert had decided that the Lowensteins were destined to suffer the same tragic fate. During the riot, Sonia and her allies set the Lowenstein house ablaze and tore through it searching for the gold bars. However, when they returned to claim the treasure, they found only a book inside the chest. Unbeknownst to them, the priest had secretly removed the gold and hidden it within the church. Seizing this opportunity, Heinrich convinced the priest to hand over the gold to Sternfeld in exchange for Elsa's safety. Finding Sternfeld asleep, Elsa noticed the poison capsule hidden in his ring. She quickly extracted it, placed the pill in her mouth, and pretended to kiss him. As she leaned in, she slipped the poison into his mouth and struck him, killing him instantly. Sonia and her friends quickly discovered that the priest had hidden the gold. Acting without hesitation, Sonia struck him with a shovel and took him captive. Later, as Dörfler conferred with his squad, Heinrich confronted him by throwing a gold bar in his face, demanding Elsa's release in exchange for all the gold. When Dörfler rushed to inform Sternfeld, he found the door locked and no answer inside. When Dörfler forced his way inside, he found the room empty. Elsa had vanished, and Sternfeld lay dead on the floor. After confirming Sternfeld had taken his cyanide capsule, Dörfler seized command. He condemned Sternfeld as a coward for attempting to flee before the battle even started. Then, Dörfler deceived Heinrich by feigning negotiations for Elsa's release in exchange for the gold. He then threw a grenade that knocked Heinrich unconscious. Hearing the blast, Elsa hurried to Irmgard's house and inquired about Heinrich. Irmgard confirmed he had entered the building. Taken aback, but resolute, the maid offered to help search the weapons stash. Elsa quickly armed herself, preparing to confront the Nazis and save Heinrich. Meanwhile, Sonia and her friends had overpowered the priest, who, under interrogation, unexpectedly disclosed the gold's hidden location. Enraged, Dörfler threatened to brutally kill Heinrich and his daughter if the gold wasn't surrendered. When the priest guided Sonia and her group to the church, they were elated to finally discover the treasure. Unaware of Gerard's hidden grenade, Sonia's companions were instantly killed in the blast. When Dörfler and his squad entered the church, they found the priest clutching the scattered gold bars and quickly moved to kill him. As Dörfler's men prepared to execute Heinrich, Elsa fired a rocket-propelled grenade, collapsing the church entrance with rubble. Inside, Irmgard, furious over the priest's death, used lethal force to repel the attacking soldiers. She stabbed Dörfler, but a Nazi soldier shot her in the shoulder, knocking her down. Gathering her strength, Elsa crawled behind a concrete wall and shot a soldier hiding by a crane near the bell tower. When she aimed at Dörfler again, her rifle was empty. He knocked Elsa down and began choking her, but Heinrich attacked from behind, killing him with a gold bar. Unseen, another soldier watched from behind the bell, claiming the gold. Sonia, revealed alive, then appeared and took down the hidden soldier as they escaped. As Elsa and Heinrich left, Sonia gathered the gold and rode off, hearing a broadcast of Germany's defeat. An Allied tank struck, destroying her horse and killing her. At the wreckage, soldiers found the scattered gold, proof the treasure need not be surrendered. The commander immediately recognized the gold as a valuable war prize. In the end, Heinrich brought Elsa to Hogen, Germany, where he joyfully reunited with his daughter. That's where the film concludes. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and enable notifications for more videos. Have a great day!